Hey everybody, it is Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show and the Aftershocks podcast. And before we show you this next video, just wanted to remind you that you can add the CMSPN to your Roku. That's right. If you have a Roku or a Roku TV, just click the link below. It's in the scroll. It's also in the description of this video. And make sure you're logged into your Roku account on your computer, and it will add it right to your Roku. It'll add it, then you just refresh your device, and bang, there it is. That way you can watch all of our episodes, whether it's us or Skull Sessions or Talk to Me or Aftershocks or Classic Metal Show. All be on your TV. It's a deal, right? And it's free. All right, make sure you do that. And now, here's the video you actually came to see. It is Aftershocks right here on AftershocksTV.com. And joining us today is a guy that, I don't know if you can believe it, but has been in our eyes and ears for 10 years now as the, and from a TV show you probably remember him from. I'm sure he doesn't want to talk about that, though. I'm sure he wants to talk about his killer new record, which is called The BEAST AWAKENS. Former vocalist of Quiet Riot. He struck out on his own, and he's released a great metal record simply called Durbin, The BEAST AWAKENS. It is the one and only vocalist. It is James Durbin. James, how are you, man?
I am great. Got no complaints. Happy to be here.
Excellent, man. Well, it's good to speak to you, man. And I have to admit, I'm going to tell you the honest to God's truth. I'm not a giant fan of Quiet Riot, so I didn't know what was coming with this. And this was a very pleasant surprise as a metalhead guy that loves like the Dio Man Award sort of thing. This was a very nice surprise to receive, man. Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, why don't we start there, James? Let's talk a little bit about, you know, not only your decision to leave Quiet Riot, but to venture this direction. You know, you've definitely chosen the harder direction to go when it comes to metal. It's just, you know, it seems like it's a lot easier these days to go out and be a screamer, yet you're doing what you do best, and you're doing it in a way that, you know, is kind of missing in metal these days.
Well, you know, that's something I kind of noticed, and taking a break, and I don't know, just that the time with QR was what it was, and it was kind of coming to a stalemate, and we weren't going where I felt like I could flourish musically as far as albums go. They were just kind of, well, we're making an album.
Right.
And, you know, I don't want my creativity to be wasted on something like that too. So, you know, it was that. It was, I was more interested in spending more time with my family. We weren't on tour as much as I would have liked. You know, if we're going to be out on tour, if we're going to be gone for 5 days, I'd like to be playing 5 shows, not 1 show,
right?
That sort of thing. So we couldn't come to an agreement, and the agreement was, you know, agree to disagree, and you know, shake hands and go our separate ways. And that's what it ended up being. But I wish those guys, like, you know, all the success in the world. You know, it's Frankie's wish for them to continue, and
sure.
And I hope that they continue to you know, keep it on and be successful at it. So with this Frontiers Records, I did the 3 albums with Quiet Riot, being Road Rage and our live album One Night in Milan, as well as the final one, which would be Hollywood Cowboys. And again, you know, not musically where, you know, not the, all right, you know, this is QR, this is that party metal, that awesome party all night, all that, right. You know, any of that, Mental Health, any of that stuff. And it wasn't that, you know, I thought that's what we'd be writing, and the type of music, but, you know, it was just different. So, but Frontiers was the first email in my inbox after, after I publicly, you know, chose not to continue. And, I said, you know, what kind of album do you want me to make? And they said, what kind of album do you want to make? I said, I want to make a classic heavy metal album. They said, we want you to make a classic heavy metal album. Nice. You know, so it's like, there you go. I found a home for it. And now it's just time to figure out, okay, what does that sound like? I also told them I really wanted to just call this band Durbin, whatever it was. And so they gave me the full reins for it. And I had no idea of who I wanted to play on it. This is, you know, at the time it was pre-COVID. So, you know, it was kind of like, I'm going to contact different people and contact different musicians to see like, okay, does this guitar player have song ideas that they could share, that I could write to? And then COVID hit and I knew I couldn't go write with different people, you know? So I was quarantined. I was at home and I just wrote myself. I said, you know what? Fuck it. If there's not people that I can write this with, let's take this as a challenge. This is meant to be. This is my moment to shine. This is my time to, you know, let my own beast awaken, if you will. Right. That song in particular was kind of the first song that I wrote that stayed on the album. And I was recording a wrestling podcast, and we were talking about a classic Japanese wrestler by the name of Jushin Thunder Liger, who was retiring.
Yeah. Sure.
And I found this article that the subtitle said "The Beast Awakens," and it was about this like character that he had that was underneath the mask. You know, once you remove the mask, it's not the man beneath the mask; it's the monster beneath the mask. And when you remove his mask, you find this guy named Kieran Liger who will try and drive a metal stake through the heart of his opponent. You know. That sort of thing. So like, okay, well, I've been in QR the last 2.5 years and I've been wearing that metal mask, so to speak. So now that I'm removing it, what does this monster sound like? What is this monster beneath the mask?
Sure.
And wrote the song, you know, demons drawing near as your life forsaken, time to face your fears for the beast awakens, breaking through the night, vengeance for the taking, light will still appear when the beast awakens. So like, thinking of like, okay, well, beneath that mask, I'm the monster that is me. The monster that is Durbin isn't necessarily all darkness. It's not evil. I'm not out to try to like murder anybody, you know?
Right, sure.
So like, you know, light will still appear. It will still be the light of me. But you know, it's time to face these fears. It's time to just say, you know what, fuck it. Let me just make the metal album I've always wanted to make. Who cares?
Right.
It's quarantine. It's COVID. You know, I'm here on my own. I've got my guitar. I'm recording little voice memos of song ideas on my phone and taking them back to my guitar and transposing the ideas. And like the title track, it was a voice memo. It was and take that to my guitar and transpose it and find a song and then take it to my studio and demo it and then try and decide, okay, what's this song sound like? You know, do I want to go more like contemporary? Do I want to go more ghost with it, more like dark but hooky and melodic? Or do I want to go more Priest, more Dio? And I found a nice a middle ground with that track. And then, but where I would take it from there, you know, was to be seen. I got into a bit of writer's block, but out of that writer's block came the idea of, what do I really want this to be?
Sure.
Out of that writer's block came trying to find inspiration for what I wanted that to be. And so I listened to Priest. I listened to Sad Wings of Destiny in its entirety. You know, I caught a vibe on the beach and listened to that album in its entirety. And as soon as Epitaph hits, and I'm just like, oh my God,
right?
You know, and the person lying here is you and you and you. That little whatever run he does, and then it transitions to
sure.
Beware of the coming. Take heed, our time is near. You know, like I love that. That's what I want. That's like where I want this music to live. And then I wrote a instrumental track I titled it NWO, not New World Order, New Wave of British Heavy Metal, NWO BHM or whatever, and Idea. And from that came the idea for The Prince of Metal. Okay. And I wrote that whole song. And then quickly thereafter came the idea for Kings Before You. And I wrote that song. And I was like, okay, now I know what this is, you know? And once I finished writing The Beast Awakens, the song, I've kept in contact with Rob Halford over the years since performing with him on Idol. And I sent him that song and I was like, I just want to know, like, what do you think of this? And he said, I think if you're writing an album, you're on the right track.
Okay. Wow.
So
that's high praise.
yeah, to get, you know, that motivation right there. And to be able to text the guy after listening and being inspired by Defenders of the Faith and Sad Wings of Destiny,
Sure.
and be like, I finally understand this.
Sure.
I'm really inspired by this, and I'm going to use this as inspiration and motivation to write my album, and to get like a fuck yeah, go for it, buddy, you know. And as soon as I had the finished album and the finished master, I sent it to him. He was one of the first people I sent it to, and got a text from him around Christmas time, just being like, I enjoy it. I've listened to it several times. It's great. You know,
awesome.
Congratulations. Like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how cool is that? You know?
Right. Do you see this style to be your career style now, or do you think that you're going to stay a little more fluid, you know, musically, and just create wherever you're at in your life? You know, go, because you've obviously done pop music, you know, with Idol, which is a little bit forced because the show, but you know, Quiet Riot was not this. So, you know, you've shown that you're capable of doing different styles. Do you feel like you found the Durbin style, or do you think that you're always going to be exploring different avenues?
I'm always exploring different avenues as it is, like with different bands and different projects and things. Cause you know, opportunity might come up where you have to write a song for a movie or something, and it has to be different. You know, there's been opportunities that come along, and I'm very glad that I have a very broad musical spectrum. You know, I love classic country music. I love my Bob Marley over the summer, like while listening to those Priest albums and all the Black Sabbath albums and every Dio album he's ever made, and any, you know, Elf and Rainbow and Sabbath and all the Dio albums and Heaven and Hell. Like, I also listen to every Bob Marley album, you know, and like, it's just, I love music, and I love the story, and I'm so interested in knowing when, you know, where people were when they wrote those albums, you know, where they were emotionally, or, you know, with Marley's case, politically, you know, just why, you know, why, when, where. So, you know, but I think for the most part, this is where Durbin will live.
Okay.
In this, you know, fantasy. It's this fantasy realm.
Right.
There's anything's possible, you know. So there can be stuff that, you know, maybe something will go more Blind Guardian, it'll go more orchestral, you know, or maybe something will go more, you know, it's I just wanted it to be kind of simple, riff-based, melodic fantasy metal, you know, in that Dio zone, you know. They're not necessarily like Holy Divers of it's Smoke on the Water. Right. It's so simple, but I don't mean that in a bad way ever. Like, simplicity is what more people should be after, I feel like. You know, I'm very limited by my guitar playing, which sometimes I look at that as a negative, but in the case of this, I'm like, this is also a positive because I'm limited by my playing. You know, I just have this area to work with it, but there's players that, you know, have the whole board to work within, you know, and can find it more difficult to, you know, write something that really hits, you know. I'm not trying to write prog here. I'm trying to write, you know, classic sounding metal. And I feel like the essence of that classic metal is the hook. It's how you can sing along to it. You know, you think of Metal Health. It's the 3 chords of doom. It's ACG. You know, it's bum, 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 no, no. But anybody can sing that, as I found out. You know, you'd have little kids in the front row and you give them the mic and they're like, or like a European crowd, or like Heavy Montreal or M3 or whatever. You know? And really, that's like at the essence of this. Like, I could hear people singing along with this album. Necromancer, the solo, you know, just these big, you know, exuberant things. You listen to
Sure.
Blind Guardian, and everybody sings every lyric of every song of theirs, and it's more of like a communal experience rather than
Sure.
just going to see a band. So
Right.
I wanted to create something that can live in that space as well.
And I think, you know, where you're saying that you're limited by your, you know, by being a picker instead of a, you know, a virtuoso
Shredder,
guitar player, you certainly make up for it by having the 4 or 5 octave range that you can actually use that as your instrument to guide emotion and feeling within each song. No?
No, correct. Absolutely. I mean, my guitar is I accompany myself. You know, it's with this stuff I'm able to create kind of a dual instrument between vocal and guitar, and I really enjoy that. It's yeah, I'm able to use my voice as an instrument on the record as well.
Sure, definitely. Now, James, I got to ask you, because you're with Frontiers. Frontiers has a habit of finding guys like yourself, or Dino Jelasic, or Ronnie Romero, or Jorn Land, etc., and they end up being in 5 million project band things. Is that something that you're interested in doing, or is that something you'll try to avoid to just establish yourself, or maybe a little of both, or what?
Probably a little of both. We've discussed it. You know, of course, money talks. Business is business, of course. And it's also, you know, like I said, with those QR records that I did, I really want to be inspired by the music I'm making, because that you know, people are able to listen to music every day. They're not able to spend time with me every day. If they spend time with me, you get to really know me and realize what kind of person I am and values and everything. And like through music, I want people to know that, you know, I care about what I'm putting out. And with those QR records, I wasn't able to attach that care and that nurture. And, you know, like I care about this. Like throughout that, throughout my time with them, like I put out like a Americana singer-songwriter album, you know, to be like, just so you guys know, like you can listen to this and hear like stories and hear affection and feeling, you know, like it does exist within me. So you know, I did that at that time. You know, had to do something that didn't compete within the genre, you know, of what I was doing with them. So but that, you know, that was also a really good learning lesson to be able to use those skills of writing those types of songs for this album, you know, and writing things that, even if it's something that's fictional, still has weight to it, still has emotion. You know, Riders on the Wind, like most will never know exactly where they are while their sights are set on all that's lost behind them, and hopelessly they walk, never getting far, while their sights are set, you know, while their minds are met with all that's, I can't think of the words right now, but through the last unopened doorway, you will let the outside in. Riders on the wind, searching for the sacred night, for the journey to begin. At the dawning of the full moon rise, we'll go ride, riders on the wind. You know, just like, I care, but like, I also want to have fun too.
Sure.
You know, those weren't fun, you know, and this is like, you have the chance to have fun with it. So if it's a super group album or whatever, you know, I definitely don't want to spread myself too thin. And I do want to make this kind of the priority also, but I don't want to follow this up with a second one too soon without giving it time to, you know, marinate.
Sure. No, and that's got to be one of the biggest concerns right now with COVID is you can't go out. You know, this could easily be a forgotten record, just because, I mean, if I hope it doesn't be this way, but if we stay closed another year, you know, then you got to start making decisions of, at what point do I say this record is just going to be an internet only heard record? You know, is that something that you've actively considered, or do you not think that far out right yet?
I mean, I try not to look at too many things as negatives and you know, preconceived things to be negatives. I'm very much in the moment right now with this of just what's next. You know, I finished the record. I love the album. I'm stoked for people to listen to it. You know, if it's just like critics and like press that get to listen to it, you know, and really appreciate it for what it is, then that's great, you know, because it's like, you guys are the guys that have the voice, you know, you guys are the guys that are telling people, you know, I enjoyed this, you know, and people people put stock into your opinions, you know? And so I love doing interviews and I love talking about it because like, I'm just the creator, you know, of course I like it. I made it, you know,
Right.
I'm the asshole that has to actually live with it. So, you know, I might as well make something I like. But, you know, on the other hand, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter if I like it. It's if people can connect to it and attach to it and, you know, find something in it. So I just try to put, you know, what I've learned and the wisdom that I've acquired and earned into every album, you know, whether it's an Americana album or a classic heavy metal album. But I feel like it really resonates with this one, and that those lessons are well applied on this album. Definitely. So, you know, whether it sells, you know, 50 copies, 500 copies, 5,000 copies, a sale's a sale. You know, a sale's a sale. You know, even if somebody picks up the album in, you know, 10 years at a Goodwill, that's still a sale. They, you know, they still bought it.
Right.
They still bought it. You know?
Definitely. Well, as I've been telling people, because a lot of, you know, it's weird as a critic, a lot of people, when, you know, when they heard I was interviewing you, they were like, well, what's the record like? You know, because you have such a wide array. And I've been telling people, and you can tell me if this is a good review or not a good review, but I've been telling people that it reminds me a lot of kind of after the first two Dios, like Dream Evil era sort of in there, combined with like Headless Cross era Black Sabbath. That's what I got from listening to it 7-8 times. Yeah.
Shit. Thank you for listening to it so many times. I appreciate that.
I'm not going to listen to it once and then try and talk to you like I've heard it.
Yeah, well, hey, you know, I've talked to people who listen to it once or like, hey, it's a great record, enjoyed it. But yeah, I do really appreciate that. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, it's in that Sacred Heart, you know, like in that Headless Cross, in that Tear, and that you know, just painting this picture, those later Iommi riffs that are, you know, he's tapping into more of his simplicity. Think of Anno Mundi, that dun 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 dun, like that's 4 notes, most of which he's only playing 3, you know. So listening to stuff like that and hearing that simplicity of like, it's really, really, really basic. You know, it could be too basic for some people, but it's more steeped in, you know, the blues of it, looking back to those Uriah Heep albums and Sir Lord Baltimore, you know, and like just this stuff that it just worked, you know, and there's a reason it worked, and it's in its simplicity, you know, going back to my whatever my limitations as a guitar player are, but like using those to the best of my ability and being like, okay, if I'm limited in this space, here's what other people did that used this space, you know, whether they were limited to it or not, you know, they still used it. And I feel like, I don't know. I enjoyed the hell out of making this album, and I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, you know, and that you have something to, you know, compare it to. That's, you know, some comparisons are no good, but a comparison like that is great. You know, that's where it lives. That is where it lives.
If I would have said, yeah, it reminds me of Kill Switch meets Cradle of Filth, then you'd have been like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. right, exactly.
Nice. Well, James, the new album, once again, is called The Beast Awakens. It is Durbin is the official title, but it is James Durbin. And dude, where should people go online to keep up with you and get the record? And should we ever have tour dates, they can find those and all that stuff?
Yeah, you can keep up with me. I post mostly to Instagram, so that's James Durbin Official. At James Durbin Official. JamesDurbinOfficial.com is the website where you will be able to find tour dates. Facebook is facebook.com/DurbinRock, as well as Twitter is @DurbinRock. And I've got merch up on, not currently on my website, but on a third-party site called Threadless. So you can find that jamesdurbin.threadless.com. You can find all the Durbin merch there. Got some sweet Prince of Metal merch, some Kings Before You merch. We'll have the album cover merch and more stuff as I think of it. I design all the merch as well as write all the music and the lyrics and all that. So it's all from the realm of Durbin. So yeah, thank you for taking the time and to listen to it and to give it a chance. And that's really all I hope that people do is listen to it, give it a chance. If it's up your alley, awesome. You know, check out the next song. And if it's not, thank you for taking the time anyway. You know, absolutely. I do appreciate that. People's time is sacred to them. People's music is really sacred to them too. So
Agree.
Thank you for considering it with those killer albums and considering it all together. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.
All right, everybody, another great interview right here on Aftershocks TV. And before we go, just want to remind you one more time, make sure you get over and subscribe to the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com. You can watch, you can listen, you can subscribe to everything that we do. Not only us, but the classic metal shows, Shockwave Skull Sessions, Talk to Me. It's all there, one site. Get 4 great shows. Never have to do anything again but be entertained. So check it out, cmspn.com, cmspn.com, cmspn.com. Until next time, folks.